You are standing in the dark. Your back aches. Your arms went numb 11 minutes ago, but your baby, who has been asleep for 40 minutes, is breathing slowly, deeply, completely at rest against your chest. You lower them. Their eyes snap open, not gradually, not with a whimper. The moment your arms begin to release them, something inside them fires, and the sleep is gone as if it never existed. You pick them back up. Within 90 seconds, they are out again. This isn't coincidence, and it isn't a habit you accidentally created. What is happening inside your baby's brain in those 90 seconds, and in the moment they sense the descent, is one of the most studied phenomena in developmental neuroscience, and almost no parent is ever told what it actually is. The obvious explanation is that you've conditioned your baby to need you, that they've learned through repetition that arms means sleep and anything else means awake, that you are essentially a habit they formed and you need to break it. This theory is reasonable. It sounds like behavioral science. It sounds like something a pediatrician would say. But here's the problem with that theory. Conditioning requires repeated learning over time. It requires the brain to build an association across multiple experiences. But babies as young as 6 weeks, before any behavioral conditioning could realistically take hold, show the exact same response. The descent protest, the instant waking, the return to sleep within seconds of contact. This isn't a learned behavior. It's a biological alarm system, and it was never designed to be turned off.
In the 1990s, Dr. James McKenna, biological anthropologist and director of the Mother-Baby Behavioral Sleep Laboratory at the University of Notre Dame, began doing something no researcher had done before. He brought mother-infant pairs into a sleep laboratory and measured both of them simultaneously. Heart rate, breathing, brain activity, cortisol levels, simultaneously across the night. What he found dismantled decades of infant sleep advice. When babies sleep in physical contact with a caregiver, their autonomic nervous system, the system that governs heart rate, breathing, and stress response, does not operate independently. It co-regulates. The mother's breathing rhythm literally entrains the infant's. The infant's heart rate stabilizes in response to the caregiver's heartbeat. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, drops measurably within minutes of physical contact. When contact is removed, every one of those systems destabilizes. This was confirmed in a 2018 study by Dorothy Vittner and colleagues, published in Biological Research in Nursing at the University of Connecticut Health Center. In a randomized crossover trial, salivary cortisol dropped measurably during a 60-minute skin-to-skin contact session, with statistical significance at p less than 0.001. Oxytocin, the neurochemical that signals safety and social bonding, rose simultaneously in both the parent and the infant. The contact doesn't just feel good to your baby. It is, at the neurochemical level, the thing that makes sleep physiologically possible for them. And here is the number that reframes everything. In a landmark 1986 study by Hunziker and Barr, published in Pediatrics, infants who were carried for an additional 3 hours per day showed a 43% reduction in crying and fussing overall, not just during contact. The nervous system calibration happening during held sleep was transferring. It was building a physiological baseline of calm. Your arms are not making your baby dependent. Your arms are building the neurological infrastructure your baby needs to eventually, on their own timeline, self-regulate. To understand exactly what happens to a baby's nervous system when a caregiver withdraws, even partially, you need to know about one of the most replicated experiments in developmental psychology, the still face paradigm. Designed by Dr. Edward Tronick in 1975, first presented at the Society for Research in Child Development, and later formalized at Harvard Medical School, the study was deceptively simple. A mother sits facing her infant, roughly 1 meter apart. For the first 2 minutes, she interacts normally.
smiling, responding, mirroring. The baby is animated, engaged, visibly regulating to her cues. Then she goes still. Not angry, not distressed, just expressionless, unresponsive, present but unavailable. Watch what happens in the next 3 minutes. The baby tries everything. They point, they reach, they vocalize, they smile. The kind of smile designed by evolution specifically to elicit a response from a caregiver. For 30, 40, 50 seconds, they deploy every tool in their behavioral repertoire to re-establish contact. And when nothing works, the collapse is visible. Their posture changes first. Shoulders forward, head drops. Then the gaze averts, not out of boredom, but because direct eye contact with an unresponsive face creates neurological distress so acute that the infant's brain forces them to look away. Dr. Tronick described it this way: the infant rapidly sobers and grows wary, withdraws and orients his face and body away from his mother with a withdrawn, hopeless facial expression. Their central nervous system, which was co-regulating on her responsiveness, had lost its external scaffold. And here is the detail that matters most for what we're talking about. The same physiological collapse that occurs when a mother goes emotionally unavailable in the still face experiment, a version of it occurs when you lower your sleeping baby into the crib. The absence of your warmth, the absence of your breath moving against them, the absence of your heartbeat. To a nervous system that has never known how to be alone, because for 200,000 years of human evolution, alone meant dead, that descent is not a transition. It is an alarm. But here's where it gets genuinely unsettling, and almost no one talks about this outside of academic circles. The alarm your baby feels when you put them down isn't a mistake in their wiring. It's the system working exactly as designed. For the overwhelming majority of human existence, infants did not sleep in separate spaces. They did not sleep in designated sleeping surfaces. They were carried, they were held, they slept where the caregiver slept, in contact, in warmth, in reach. The infant who could detect the withdrawal of a caregiver at night and who screamed loudly enough to restore contact survived. The infant whose nervous system went quietly back to sleep in the dark, alone, unprotected from cold and predators and the 1,000 dangers of the pre-modern world, did not. Your baby's refusal to sleep without you is not a personality flaw. It is the inherited output of every ancestor who survived long enough to become your ancestor, because they screamed when they were put down. John Bowlby, the psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who developed attachment theory at the Tavistock Institute in London, identified proximity seeking as a primary biological drive, as fundamental as hunger or thirst, not a learned preference, a survival system, one that does not distinguish between night in the savannah 100,000 years ago and night in your nursery in 2025. The nervous system doesn't know you've already solved the predator problem. 200,000 years of evolution didn't wire your baby to sleep in your arms by accident. You have Googled how to get baby to sleep without being held at 2 a.m. You have wondered if you've done something wrong. You have held your baby through naps that lasted longer than you thought you could stand, legs falling asleep, shoulder cramping, afraid to move. You've been told you're creating a bad habit. You've been told to let them cry. You've been told they need to learn independence. Here is what the science actually says. You are not reinforcing dependency. You are building a nervous system. Every hour your baby spends co-regulating on your chest is an hour their autonomic nervous system is practicing calibration, practicing the rhythms of calm breathing, of manageable cortisol, of a heart rate that knows how to slow down. You are not their crutch. You are their nervous system's only off switch. And the more you are that switch now, the more capable they become of finding their own. Dr. McKenna's decades of research at Notre Dame found that infants who experienced high-contact sleep in early months showed more organized sleep architecture over time, not less.
The contact doesn't delay independence, it architecturally builds toward it. You are not failing at sleep training, you are succeeding at neurodevelopment.
There is one behavioral pattern to watch for, and it matters. Layer 1, the signal. If your baby is not only unable to sleep without contact, but also shows difficulty self-soothing between feeds, becomes inconsolable within seconds of being put down at any hour, not just sleep transitions, and shows signs of physical rigidity or arching when separated, pay close attention to how long those states last and how difficult recovery is. Layer 2, relativization. This does not automatically mean there is a developmental concern. The vast majority of babies who only sleep in arms are doing exactly what their nervous system was designed to do. Every baby develops on their own timeline. Contact napping in the early months is not a red flag. It is, by the research, a norm. Layer 3, scientific urgency. What matters is the window. The first 6 months of life represent a peak period of nervous system plasticity, the period during which the brain is most responsive to co-regulatory input. What a baby's nervous system learns to do in this window, what it learns to expect from the world, becomes the baseline architecture for stress response for years to come. This does not mean you have a narrow window to fix anything. It means the contact you are giving now is doing the highest value neurological work it can possibly do. Layer 4, one action. If you are concerned about the intensity or duration of your baby's contact need, bring it to your pediatrician specifically framed around self-regulation, not sleep training. The question isn't, how do I get them to sleep alone? The question is my baby's nervous system developing the capacity to regulate? That framing will get you a better answer. And if you're doing contact naps because it's the only thing that works, you are not failing. You are the intervention.
Next week, we're going into something most parents notice but nobody explains. Why your baby stares at ceiling fans, light fixtures, and blank walls with an intensity that looks almost like a trance, and what neuroscience says is actually happening inside their visual cortex in those moments. The science behind this is stranger than anything you've been told. If there was a moment when you lowered your baby and they woke the second they left your arms, like a switch flipped, leave it in the comments. I want to know how fast it happened. If this video changed how you think about what your baby's nervous system is actually doing, subscribe. There's a new video every week, and every one of them is built on the same foundation: real science, no shortcuts, and a lot of respect for how hard this actually is.